Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Blake the Book Eater here, and today we are going to talk about all the books that I read in February. So if you're new to my channel, hello, welcome, and if you're coming back, hello, I love you, I love my subscribers, and you're amazing. But if you are new, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more of my bookish content. And don't forget to like and also follow my socials down below, my Instagram, my Twitter, because I do share some things there that don't make it on here. And you can stay updated for announcements, giveaways, etc. And if you have not heard, me and some of my friends are doing an Expanse read-along over the next basically a year. So keep a lookout for that. But in the meantime, let's talk about all the things that I read in February. So the first book that I read in February was actually just a book that I was finishing up reading in January, and that is The City of Ashes by Cassandra Clare. Now, I did not like this book. The first book in the series was fun, enjoyable, but then something happened at the end of that book that carried over into this book, and I just hated it. I hated it so much. The only reason why I gave this book 3 stars is because there were some enjoyable moments, but then at the end, at the end was actually good. I did enjoy the end of this book, but the majority of this book was just so dull and boring, and just not enjoyable in my opinion. And so that's like, I would lean more towards a 2.5, honestly. And so I've heard that the series gets better from here, so I really hope it does, because this was just not it. Then the second book I read in February was The City of Glass, which finished off the kind of first half of the Mortal Instruments series, because apparently she originally wrote it like a trilogy, but then went back and decided she wanted to add like another 3 books, kind of like the sequel trilogy to, you know, Star Wars or something like that. And I think this book wrapped up the plot lines from the first 3 books pretty nicely. I did enjoy this one a lot more than City of Ashes. But the thing that really annoyed me about book 2, and I don't want to spoil it, but it's been around for so long that you probably know what I'm talking about. But that plot line is just the most annoying in this book. And so even though there were a lot of things that I really enjoyed about this, like I liked the action, I liked some of the side characters, the overall plot I thought was pretty cool. But that one thing literally tanked the book for me. And so that's why I gave City of Glass a 3 out of 5 stars. Because I just could not get over that plot line because I hated it so much. So if you want uncomfortable situations, this series makes you feel very uncomfortable. At least it did for me. I hear some people actually enjoyed that and like the drama surrounding that. I just didn't. I hated the angst. So would I recommend this series? I'm going to read more of the Shadowhunters books eventually. I'm going to take a break from them because I feel slightly traumatized by what I read in these books, and so my brain just needs a break. Also, this book kind of put me in a book slump. It took me forever to finish, and this was it was a pretty easy read, and I should have finished it really fast, but because I just was not enjoying what I was reading, and the scenes, the dynamics from some of the characters, yeah, it put me in a book slump, and so that's why I did not read as many books this month. I blame Shadowhunters. The next book I read was for my Vintage Books and Wine Club, and we had the live show hosted on Tiana's channel at the end of the month, and that book was Legend Born by Tracy Dion. Now, this book was so awesome, like genuinely just so cool. I loved so many aspects about this book. It basically is kind of like, I would say, like a Black Buffy meets King Arthur retellings, and it was just so cool. You have Bree, who is a 16-year-old who kind of gets sent to this this college campus on the early college program, so she's kind of interacting with a lot of like older kids, and even though she's technically in high school, it has very much kind of like a freshman in college feel. Like it reminded me of like when I was a freshman in college. And then of course she witnesses some magic shenanigans and then gets involved in a magic society that may not be trustworthy. And there's just a lot of really cool things in this book, and the ending was just so good, and I need the sequel injected into my veins right now. Tracy Deonn's writing was fantastic. Just the nuance to just Bree's character, and this novel really deals with grief, I think, in an exceptional way. And yeah, I would really highly recommend you to pick up Legendborn. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and it is something that I definitely will be coming back to when the sequel comes out. So the next book I read, I actually needed a little break just because I was reading so many fantasy and so many I just needed like a slight little break. So what did I read? I read the Heartstopper series by Alice Oseman, and it put me in that perfect kind of February wanting romance mood, because holy wow. This series is perfect, like genuinely amazing, and exactly the kind of series that I wish I had when I was growing up. It would have made coming out a lot easier. So Heartstopper is the tale of Nick and Charlie, and just kind of the beginning of their relationship, because at the start of Heartstopper, Charlie is pretty much the only out kid at his school, and he goes to an all-boys school, and so he was very severely bullied. There are some trigger warnings for this book. There is like attempted sexual assault, only like making out, nothing further than that, but still it can be upsetting and triggering to some people. And also later in the series, it deals with issues such as self-harm, eating disorders, homophobia, bullying. And so yeah, I those are all issues that to me are very relatable as a queer teenager going through this coming out process. But if you are triggered by those things, be aware before you go into this. But yeah, so Charlie is one of the only out gay kids, and he befriends Nick, and Nick is a seemingly straight rugby player, and they start to get along really well, and they become really close, they become best friends, and then maybe it will grow into something more. And I love the characters in this series. It's still ongoing, by the way, and so there are 3 published collections as of right now, and the 4th one is coming out in like May, I believe, and I think Alice Oseman said that they're going to be going up to 5. And I actually caught up with where the series is currently, because she is updating them on Webtoon, which is awesome. So I feel like I've already maybe read volume 4. I don't know how much that is collecting, but there's just so much nuance and character development in this series, especially with the side characters, because the first volume really just focuses on Charlie and Nick, but then as the series goes on, you get a lot more from these side characters and their stories and how it intersects with Charlie and Nick's love story, and it's just so heartwarming, and I loved it so much, and I will continue to love it as new little chapters come out. And I highly recommend that everybody goes and reads it. If you want wholesome queer content, this is for you. It's just beautiful, and it made me smile, it made me laugh, it made me cry. Happy cry. It made me happy cry. And yeah, I just love Heartstopper. It's amazing. 5 out of 5. I'm just gonna do a quick update. So I'm still reading The Blade itself. I think I made it to the halfway point. I made it to part 2. And the reason it's taking me so long to read this book is I'm listening to it on audiobook, and I only really listen to it while I do Postmates deliveries, which I only do once or twice a week. So I'm not in the car as much as I would like to be, because if I'm sitting around at home, and I'm listening to an audiobook, I just cannot focus like on the words. I have to be like doing something or going somewhere, because then I'm like doing something else while listening. And so like just halfway check-in with the Blade itself, I really, really love it so far. The characters are just so dynamic, very interesting. They're not great people. I would say most of them are bad people, or morally gray people. But not in like the Game of Thrones sense, where it feels like some of them are just like grimdark to be grimdark. They're dark in almost kind of like a humorous way. Like it's very kind of winking at the audience, and just the narration for this audiobook is wonderful, because the narrator uses a bunch of different voices for the characters, especially with my favorite character from this book. His name is Glotka. He is like this man who had been like tortured as a war prisoner, and so he's crippled, he has like a limp, he is missing a lot of his teeth, and he's like really cruel and sassy, and he's an inquisitor who tortures people. He is not a good person. However, he's really funny. And being in his head, like, while kind of gross, is also the most interesting part of this book. And the plot, as of right now, is like really kind of starting to get rolling, and we're starting to see bigger things like coming on the horizon. And so I will be just continuing to listen to this series like with my Audible subscription for the next couple months until I finish, because I do really want to get through it, but I just am not a fast audio listener. So the last book that I read this month is The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. And y'all, this book is perfect. This book was amazing. Like, I genuinely enjoyed this book so much. Like, it was everything that I wanted, just from the description of this sapphic sci-fi. Huge trigger warning for domestic abuse, though. It does deal very heavily with that, because if you guys didn't know what the story is about, we have Kara, who is our main character, and in her world, they've discovered traversing, so they can go between different parallel dimensions. And the dichotomy here is because Kara lives in Ashtown, which is right next to Wiley City, which is the like super technologically advanced like city right next to Ashtown. Ashtown is very impoverished, and people live very hard lives there. And so you can only traverse to worlds where you are not alive. And because Kara grew up in Ashtown, she is dead in hundreds of worlds, because she has had such a hard life, and the branches did not go the way they were supposed to. And because of this, she is able to be useful to the company who is traversing. And that a lot of the times has to do with her partner, Nick, who was very domestic abusive, or abusive to her. And so it doesn't really get super graphic, but it is very triggering from what I've heard from people who have dealt with that. So just be warned going in. With that being said, though, this book was just wonderful. It was so good. The plotting was insanely intricate and blew my mind when certain things were revealed or happened. And the character development was just wonderful. The themes, like the big theme of this book is classism, and how their entire world really is kind of like stuck in this lens of what people expect you to be. And I think Micaiah Johnson did a wonderful job at subverting a lot of just narrative expectations and sci-fi tropes, and it was just so refreshing to read. Honestly, I was reading this and I was like, this is the kind of story that I want when I read sci-fi. So I highly recommend The Space Between Worlds. It is a 5 out of 5 stars for me. Absolutely phenomenal. I love it so much. Please go read it. And with that is the end of my February wrap up. Like I said, I did not read a ton this month. I mean, honestly, part of the reason why I read Heartstopper is to increase this, because I read all the Heartstoppers in like one night. So I can say that I read more than I did, because your boy was in a slump this month. But next month is already looking up, or this month is already looking up, March. So hopefully I will have quite a few more books to talk to you about next month. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, make sure you're subscribed to my channel for more new content, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.